Hello everybody, and welcome to the webinar on systematic problem solving and root cause analysis. Today we are going to provide you with a very efficient methodology that will solve problems in the most efficient way and also make your business develop in an equally efficient way. Just a few words about myself. I work at Lean-Agile, and I have worked with problem solving, root cause analysis, and value stream analysis, strategy deployment in many of my positions in companies, and also as a consultant for a couple of years, 6 years to be precise. And I really find problem solving one of my most interesting issues, because the methodology that we are providing today are really getting you somewhere. The problem-solving methodology today is something you will bring home, you can apply it, and you will get real results. So let's jump right into it and start with the 3 goals that we would like to see happen today. First of all, we want to make sure that you see that problem-solving is not something negative. The problem-solving is a way to establish a culture that brings value and business development. Goal number 2 is to understand the basics of the methodology so that you can understand a best practice of approaching problems on a day-to-day basis. And goal number 3 is that we hope by understanding and learning about these methodologies and tools we are going into here, that you can take these home and apply them for yourself. So these are the 3 goals for this webinar. I also have to say that problem solving is part of what we at Lean-Agile call the steering wheel. The steering wheel is a holistic approach of how to behave and act to reach that sustainable continuous improvement status. So this picture, I will not get into that in detail, but as you see, there are aspects in this figure that has to do with customer value, customer experience, collaboration, team development, and so on. Highly important things that aim to fulfill what we are aiming for, namely to create that sustainable continuous improvement in the company. And if you look at the central part of it, namely the sustainable continuous improvement part, there are 3 different approaches interconnected that are the building blocks of this central part of the steering wheel. One is strategy deployment, having to do with connecting the strategy with operational day-to-day business. So we are bridging strategy and operations by having this strategy deployment offerings, webinars, courses, and workshops. And at the same time, the second leg or the second part of the triangle is the value stream analysis and mapping, because everything you do to improve will be because the value streams are improving. So how do we view problems and challenges? Well, what we try to make organizations believe and work and act on is to view problems as opportunities to improve. Problems are not negative things. Problems are opportunities. By solving problems, you get somewhere, you improve your business. And if you deal with problems, you are doing something about the obstacles that you may find that you need to remove in order to create flow in your value streams. And the third part of it is that you need to close the gaps and deviations that customers experience sometimes because you have problems along your value streams, resulting in quality issues, delays, and things like that. So by having problem solving as part of your day-to-day work, you are erasing this deviation and creating customer satisfaction. Dan Jones, one of the co-authors of the book The Machine That Changed the World, he puts the importance of problem solving in this way. The essence of Lean is to figure out the right problems to solve, develop a culture of problem solvers, and accelerate flows to reinvest back into quality and new products. So what he's saying is that you need to work on the right problems, not every problem. You are not taking an ad hoc approach. You have a systematic approach to it, and we will teach you on that today. What is the right way to pick and prioritize the right problems to solve? And then as a result, you will develop a culture of problem solvers that deal with this on a day-to-day basis, that result in continuous improvement by taking these new best practices into your organization and have a step-by-step improvement. This is a picture that may illustrate what we are talking about here. This picture is taken with a motive being the rooftop of my neighbor's house. And as you see, this roof is full of obstacles, and the rain will not find its best way down this roof. So what you need to do here is to find a way to remove these impediments in a way that makes the flow be steady all the time. And that is called finding the root cause, so that we will not have these impediments on the roof anymore. But sometimes that may be quite an extensive task and quite difficult. For example, in this particular case, we have a tree that is regulated by the authorities, so the root cause, which is the tree itself, cannot be cut down. So we have to find workarounds, and that is also the case with problem solving. Sometimes you do not have that obvious root cause. You have to find solutions that eliminates the problem in the best possible way, and we will talk about that as we move along as well. Problems are making flow uneasy. The value stream is affected by problems, and by dealing with problems in a systematic way, in a prioritized way, the values will flow much better in the value streams. So value stream analysis and mapping is workshops, courses, and webinars we have as well, so that you understand that problem solving and value stream analysis and mapping are two important building blocks along your improvement journey. Let's look at it this way. Here you have an illustration of a value stream. Three colors are present: red, yellow, and green. The value is triggered on the left side and the value is delivered on the right side. And you see you have some green ones, which we call value add. That's the kind of activity that the customer is willing to pay for. That's what the value stream is all about, creating value for the customer. But we also have yellow ones, and that is necessary non-value adds, which is to say things that we have to do, but the customer will not pay for it. It may be reporting to authorities or other things. We need to do it, but it's not adding value for the customer. Then we have the red ones, and that are activities we do which are not bringing value to the customer. It's not, no one will pay for it. It's useless, something that we should aim to remove. So these are the three typical characteristics you find in value streams, and problem solving can be applied to do something with, to enhance the value add, to minimize necessary non-value add, and remove unnecessary non-value add. And to describe it even further, in this value chain, in this value stream, we have some red areas, and some of these red areas are quality issues, some are waste issues, some are illustrating flow issues, and some are over-processing issues, and there will be many more, always many more. But the thing is, you use problem-solving methodology like what we are discussing today, to deal with them and get the flow better step by step in a prioritized order. So now we will take a look into what is this methodology and why should we use it and why is it so efficient and how is it built up. So this is the aim and the goal for the rest of the webinar. The steps are 8, and we will get into each of them in a little detail. Not that much because we don't have a day, we don't have a workshop, but we have a 35-minute or something like that webinar today. So we will try to say something about it. Step number 1, describe the current situation and find what is the nature of the problem that you are facing. Step 2, describe the target state. Describe where you are when the problem is solved. Step 3, analyze the gap between the current situation and the target state. Find the gaps, it may be more than one, that you need to bridge and close in order to get to the target state. Step number 4, find the root cause, analyze it so that you get to the bottom of the problem and hopefully find a root cause to remove to get rid of the problem altogether. Step number 5, define countermeasures. When you have the root cause or you have some solutions, you need to act on them in order to get to the target state or as close to the target state as possible. Number 6 has to act on the countermeasures. So we implement the countermeasures in order to get to the target state. Number 7 is a check. You need to see everything that you bring in, every action of the countermeasures will be checked in order to see, did it contribute to something or was it something I need to skip to get to the next one? And number 8, when you have done it, you have understood the problem, you have dealt with it, you have a new best practice that you need to implement in the organization. So that is step number 8. And to support this 8-step approach, we have something which we call Dmake. And Dmake is viewed in this problem-solving methodology as a way to make a QA on what we are doing. Each step, each of these 5 steps, define, measure, analyze, improve, and control, has to do with finding the right tools and methodologies to apply in order to get somewhere, to get to the target state and remove the problem. The third and last thing that we bring into this methodology is what is called A3. And the A3 in this context is a visualization of the work with solving the problem. And as you see here, we have A, B, C, and D, 4 rectangles, and we work in the order of describing the current situation, describing the ideal situation, the target state, analyze the gaps, and implement the solution. So that is the visualization. So everything we do, everything we are working on is documented on a physical wall or a digital wall so that everyone in the team can align and see and discuss what we are doing at each stage of the problem solving. So there we are with the overall description. We have the value stream in the middle, and we have what we need to do to improve the value stream by taking this 8-step structured approach on that particular problem. We have the process, quality, and reference in the Dmake, and we have the visual roadmap with the A3. So with all these components present, we can make highly efficient problem solving within our organization and become a continuous improvement organization. So let's describe each step a little bit. And as you see on the right, we have this define, measure, analyze, improve, and control so that you can see as we move along. Now we are in the define, we are defining the problem, we are defining the target state, or we are analyzing and so on. So let's start with a brief description of each of the 8 stages. Start with step 1. Here, the parts are as follows. We start by understanding the current state. And to do that, we use facts. We find the symptoms. We apply the symptoms in the value stream where we see them, and we apply statistics. We use brainstorming to understand the problem. We are drawing up the value stream, we are using images or illustration, whatever is needed in order to understand the nature of the problem. And the other thing we do when we have done that is to describe what we call a problem statement, which is 1 or 2 sentences encapsulating the nature of the problem. That's step 1. Then we go to step 2. Now we are in position to see what would it look like when the problem is not present anymore. So we are moving straight over to a new good situation. We pretend to have solved it, and we ask ourselves, how does it look like? What are the metrics? What are the facts? How can we describe how the world looks like when the problem is removed? That's the point of step 2. We know where we will be when the problem is no more. Step 3. Now we are diving into the analysis phase. By knowing step A, the current situation, knowing where we are headed with the target situation, we should describe the gap and the gaps. It may be more than one gap to a certain problem, and we describe each gap to understand them. What is the nature of the gap? Where in the value stream is the gap located? What are the characteristics of the gap? And what metrics describe the gaps? It may be several metrics that must be present to describe a gap in the best way. And each metric should be considered in 3 different ways. It must be measurable in order to stay fact-based. It must be meaningful for bridging the gaps. And it must be improvable so that we can see that when we do something about the gap, closing the gap, the metrics will tell us that we actually is closing the gap. So that's step 3. Examples of tools to support that gap analysis are many. We cannot go through them now because it's a webinar. When in the course, in the one-day course, and especially in the workshops, we are working with these tools and others as well, and we learn what kind of tools are best fitted into certain types of problems as well. But here you have a list of some common tools that can support you to describe the gap analysis. Step 4, we are still in the analysis phase, and now when we have the gaps described, we are in position to identify the root causes. And the root causes are simply the basic axioms, that what is the basics that if we remove them, we will not see the problem anymore. So we remove the trigger that creates the problem by acting on the root causes. That is step 4. If we find that root cause or these root causes, we are long on the way to solve the problem. But sometimes, we will get to that in a minute, sometimes we don't get the root cause identified and we have to do other things. But what we need of tools, again, a list of tools that would help us to identify the root causes in the best possible ways. There are more tools than this, but those listed here are the ones that we most usually use, and we also dig into them in the one-day course and in the workshops in order to learn by doing and acting on the problem by training on using these tools and what tools to choose. But sometimes we cannot act on a root cause because we can't identify it, or the root cause is not possible to do something about. And then we need to change our mindset a bit, and we say that we have to find alternative possible solutions that will get us as close to the target state as possible. So we are trying to score the solutions according to how close to the target state metrics or the gap metrics we can get for each solution. And then we select the solution with the highest total score. So this is a very good way of finding the best fit solutions for the problem when you do not have a root cause. Step 5 has to do with defining the countermeasures, because now we have the current alternative, we have the current situation, the current problem, we have the target state, we have the gaps described, we have the metrics, we have everything we need in order to define the countermeasures. In the case of a root cause, we may have only one countermeasure, easy. So low-hanging type of problems may be very easy to use, to deal with using this methodology, but it's also very scalable. So if you have complex problems, you can also define complex gaps, metrics to support them, and help getting the most efficient countermeasures out of this stage. And as you see on the right, now we are in the implementation phase. We are defining the actions we need in order to bridge the gaps, close the gaps, and get to the target state where the problem is solved. One approach to deal with these actions and countermeasures, we often prioritize them, and we use what we call a priority matrix in order to do that. So for every action or every countermeasure we are assigning a position to them according to what kind of effort and what kind of impact each action will have. For example, one action may be obtained with a very small effort and get a high impact. And that's the type of actions we are looking for. So in order to work efficiently, every countermeasure is placed in this priority matrix so that we are doing business, we are doing the most efficient way of problem solving possible. Step number 6 and 7, it has to do with acting on countermeasures. We are implementing the countermeasures. We are putting the actions into play, and we check the results because we have the metrics, so we can say that we bring in the countermeasure that is most efficient, that has the lowest effort and highest impact first, and in that way we are closing the gap and getting to the target state in a very systematic way. Step 8. Now we are in the position that we are controlling the situation. We are going to establish a new best practice, and that has to do with looking at what were the actions needed, where are we now, and what do we need to do of training in order to stay at that new best practice target state. Because every time we solve a problem and we establish a new best practice, we deserve some celebration. It's part of the methodology to actually say, we did something good. This was a very new best practice, and thank you everybody for being able to contribute to achieve this new level of best practice customer satisfaction flow in our value stream. So in summary, we have these 8 steps. So this is the core of the methodology that you should try out, and more than try out, because this is a best practice way of solving problems. Small, large, complex, simple, they all can adapt in a very efficient way using this methodology. The versions of this event is a webinar that you have heard now. We also have a one-day remote or on-site course where we are digging much deeper into each step and using examples to illustrate what it means to work in this particular way. And we also have tailor-made workshops where we are dealing with learning by doing on the client's problems at their own value streams. We are now moving over to the Q&A part. I see lots of questions, comments, so I'm really looking forward to taking part of that. So we just have a 1-minute break before we do the Q&A, and we see each other in a minute. Thank you.